Greetings, Tezos Nation. A very happy Groundhog Day to all. Welcome to another edition of the TezTalks live stream. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons. Joining me today is Josh Dechant, aka Codecrafting, founder of Crunchy. Crunchy, for those who might not know, is the Tezos token trading and tracking platform providing DeFi services and solutions to projects, developers, and users across the Tezos ecosystem. The Crunchy team recently went live with version 1 of its Tezos token tracker, and we're all very excited to hear about how this rollout is taking shape and what we can expect to see from the Crunchy team moving forward. On today's stream, we'll be giving away a Tezos branded Nano Ledger to one of our lucky viewers. If you'd like that lucky viewer to be you, keep an ear out for a keyword later on during the stream. And of course, if you have any questions for Josh that you'd like me to ask, please add them in the chat at any time, and we'll get to as many as we can before we wrap up. Hi, Josh. How are things in Rhode Island?
Hey, yeah, it's super cold today, but otherwise, yeah, it's going good.
Awesome. Get the ball rolling. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your personal journey into the exciting world of blockchain technology?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a longtime software developer, over 20 years. I've been playing with computers since I was a kid. I got into blockchain though through I used to do crypto puzzles, which if you haven't seen, they're just like puzzles that people used to make, and if you solve them, they usually lead to like a private key or a seed phrase to a wallet that has like a little bounty in it or something. And so I started doing those for a while and got into that. And then some friends in the group were Ethereum developers, and we started doing some hackathons together. And then we got asked to do a Tezos hackathon, and we did that, and we did pretty well in that. And that was my introduction to development on Tezos. And then from there, TQ reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to do some work with them on Tezos. And I kind of got a job there, and I've kind of been developing on Tezos ever since then.
Cool. And what was the impetus for you deciding to focus your efforts on developing Crunchy? Like, what was the problem that you wanted to see solved in this ecosystem?
Yeah, so at the time, DeFi and Tezos was like very, very early, like almost non-existent. Like Swap had like just came out, and like people were kind of like making tokens like crazy, and we're kind of like, the joke was they were kind of like wrecking each other. Like projects were kind of popping up, and people weren't sure if they were like scams or not. And then a bunch of people wanted to like do farms, and they wanted to do all this other stuff, but there were no like contract libraries or stuff that people could use. So I just kind of got the idea to create kind of like a platform where like projects could go and just like through a simple interface and a few clicks, like create some like services and use some stuff for like their projects, like farms or like liquidity lockers to lock up liquidity, to like create some trust with their community, and stuff like that. So that's kind of where the idea was born, kind of like out of a need for projects to kind of have a way to do that stuff easily, and kind of have some tools for them to provide some trust to like their community.
Okay. So obviously, it's not as you mentioned, it's not the first DeFi project that we've seen rolled out here in the Tezos ecosystem. In your view, what sets Crunchy apart from the DeFi platforms we've seen in this space so far? Is it strictly what you were just referencing now?
Yeah. So initially it was like it was a little more open and like self-service, and now we're like moving more towards being more of like an aggregator for like the other platforms. So earlier last fall, we rolled out our swap aggregator, the first version of that aggregates from all of the dexes. So if you want to swap, you can just go in there and get like the better rate. Now we're working on like our token tracker, so you can see data on tokens and like prices and stuff from across the ecosystem, and stuff like that. And we're working on like portfolio views of wallets, and stuff like that. So kind of what sets us apart of the other platforms are kind of focused on themselves. We're kind of a platform that kind of takes like a view of like all the other platforms and kind of like combines all that data together in one place.
Okay. So I've seen Crunchy described as a DaaS, like DeFi as a service product. Do you think that that is an accurate description of what you've built here?
So initially it was, and we still have some things in that line. So like because initially we had like the farms, and we still have those, where like anybody or any project can go and create like a yield farm. We have liquidity lockers where anybody or any project can go and create a locker for their liquidity. And we have some other things planned down the road that are still going to be in that vein. Like we have IFOs, which are kind of like a spin on ICOs or IDOs. And at some point in time, we'll probably make those self-service, and that would be like a DeFi as a service thing. And so we're still going to keep some of that, but yeah, we're kind of pivoting now a little more towards like aggregation stuff, which is not really like DeFi as a service. But yeah, we still do have the DeFi as a service stuff, but we're kind of branching out a little more from that now.
I see. So what's available right now is version 1 of Crunchy. First off, where can people interact with version of 1 of Crunchy, and what can people do on your platform today?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so you just go to crunchy.network. When you land right on the homepage, that's where the token tracker is. So on that page, you'll be able to see all the top tokens on Tezos, see what their current price is, their volume, their market cap, stuff like that. You can drill down into them, see charts, see some data. Right now, we just have data on Keep Swap Exchange, but we're working on expanding that out. You can also see a wallet portfolio view, where you can see the value of your wallet, what all tokens you have in your wallet, the value that they have, different staking positions that you might hold, different liquidity positions you might hold, even like NFTs in your wallet. We have a DEX aggregate that you can go and swap tokens, and it will aggregate liquidity from across all the different DEXs. And then we still have our original products up, which are more of the DeFi as a service products, which are like the yield farms, the deep freezers, which are the liquidity lockers. And then we have a page up for WTZ, where you can go and swap WTZ or see some stats on it. And then also we have a burner contract that we've had forever for a long time. And so there's a page where you can go and see stats on that.
Very cool. What features can users expect to see rolled out in the days ahead?
Um, yeah, so we're planning to add more DEX data. So um, right now in the token tracker, when you go in, you see Keep Swap. Next, we're planning to add Plenty Network data, and then Spicy Swap data. So that should be coming like very soon.
Cool. I understand Crunchy is a recent Tezos Commons Small Grant Program recipient. What can you tell us about your experience applying for a Tezos Commons Small Grant?
Yeah, it was a great experience. Originally, we reached out to Tezos Commons because we had some ideas on how we could improve our token tracker. First, we built like a proof of concept, and then from all the feedback we got from everybody who interacted with it, we kind of realized how needed it was in the ecosystem. So we reached out to Tezos Commons, and they just sent us a list of questions, and we had a meeting with them. We met with Alex. Everything was very straightforward. They were very responsive. And yeah, we highly recommend anybody in the ecosystem, looking for a small grant, to build like a feature, or for any team looking to build that just needs, that extra little boost there, to definitely, give it a try. It was a very smooth experience. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So, as a small grant program recipient, what's your relationship like with Tezos Commons at this stage? Like, are there other types of support that they offer besides money?
Yeah, sure. We've always had a great relationship with Tezos Commons. They've always been very helpful for Crunchy. A number of times we've reached out to them um, for several, for like articles or just general questions. They've helped us promote, Crunchy in the past. Through like getting, tweets promoted, and stuff like that.
And being here now.
Yeah, being here now. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If we ever have any like questions or concerns about anything, that we can just like reach out to people that we know there, and they're always like super responsive and quick to reply.
Mm-hmm.
They've even consulted with us on applications for grants from the Tezos Foundation, right? And they've given us great feedback on like going through that process. So yeah. I mean, in our experience, everybody there is great, and wants to see Tezos succeed, and is like more than willing to give help and assistance to people that like reach out and need it.
Right on. Great stuff so far. I'm excited to learn more. But before we dive into the nitty gritty, are you ready for the world famous TezTalks lightning round?
Let's do it.
Okay. Just before we do that, I'd like to announce today's keyword for the Tezos branded nano ledger we're giving away today. Today's keyword is !crunchy. Enter the keyword !crunchy in the live stream chat, and Nightbot will randomly select today's winner, who we'll announce before the end of the stream. Okay, now, Josh, it is lightning round time. Remember, there are no wrong answers, and this is just for fun so our viewers can get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
Yep.
Beaches or mountains?
Beaches.
Pizza or sushi?
Sushi.
Movies or video games?
Movies.
Is this real life or are we in a simulation?
We're definitely in a simulation.
True or false, money buys happiness?
False.
Name one thing you absolutely want to do before you die.
Sail around the world.
Great answer. The last place you traveled was?
Littleton, New Hampshire.
Never been, but I'm sure it's lovely. And finally, in 5 words or less, how would your best friend describe you?
Quiet and reserved.
Okay. And finally, what is your favorite thing to do on a rainy day?
I'm gonna go with the obvious stereotypical answer. I'm gonna say that would be to code.
All right. Thank you. Those were excellent answers. This concludes the TezTalks lightning round. Let's get back into it. Can you tell us a bit about your decision to name this project Crunchy? What is the meaning behind that name?
Yeah. So, I mean, it basically just comes from the whole Tezos taco meme, right? So,
I'm a big fan of the Tezos taco meme, by the way.
Yeah. So, okay, it's a little bit of a funny backstory. So, before Crunchy, so there's this part of the ecosystem called Salsa DAO, which is where Spicy Swap comes from and stuff. Um, and they used to have these tacos, these V1 tacos, and for a while you could like trade them for red salsa and green salsa, and there was like there was an arbitrage opportunity there, and I wrote like a bot to take advantage of that. And so like if you ever hear anybody talk about like the Tezos Taco Wars, that's what they're talking about, and they're talking about like the community like fighting my bot for the arbitrage.
How did they do?
I think I don't know. I think I came out pretty well ahead, but like out of that, people kind of started to call me like the Taco Ninja, and this other kind of stuff, and so it kind of stuck. And so then, yeah, I don't know. When I came up with the idea for Crunchy, I just started thinking like, taco, crunchy taco, crunchy. We'll call it Crunchy, and then I, tried to find a logo, and I found like this like really awesome like cartoonish like Taka with like this like smiling face, which is now like the symbol for the coin, and it's like this like kind of like this iconic symbol at this point, just this like giant yellow smiling face. But yeah, that's the story there.
Fabulous. I love a good origin story. I'm wondering if we can maybe zoom out for a minute here and talk about the DeFi space in more general terms. I'd like to get your thoughts. Like, how do you view the current state of decentralized finance in 2023? Like, where is DeFi at right now?
Yeah, so I think it's I think we're kind of in a place of like uh, I guess you'd almost say like reflection. After the last bull run and all of like the serious, I guess rugs is all you can call them. Uh, that have like fallen out from like the market crashing. I think a lot of people have become like reserved, um, and I think a lot of projects are kind of like taking a step back and kind of like reevaluating, how they can provide their services to their users in a better way, in a more transparent way, in a way that better protects the users, and better gives the user, more sovereignty and control, over their money. I think we're in a period. A lot of people are kind of like a wait and see, as far as like what regulations are going to shake out from all of this, and all that kind of stuff. So I definitely think that we're still early, but I think that the landscape is definitely going to change over the next few years. After everything from the last round and the fallout from that.
Mhm.
Um, because especially like FTX, that was a super high profile fallout.
Sure was.
Yeah. So, I mean, at least I hope we're going to see changes from that. I mean, if we don't, then we have serious other issues. But
Oh, I mean, aside from the ruggings, as you put it, we went through a period where there was a lot of buzz around DeFi as an important use case for blockchain tech, but that buzz has obviously cooled down a lot in recent months. Do you attribute that exclusively to those kind of ruggings, or have other things changed in the space that have brought us to this point?
um, I wouldn't attribute it to the ruggings. I think I would attribute it more to just the market overall has cooled off, right? Um, and I think those ruggings largely came because the market cooled off. I think that they were propped up a lot longer than anybody really knows about, due to like all the hype, right? Um, so I think inevitably they were always going to fall. But yeah, I think I think it's just the market has cooled off. And it's just cyclical. And people are just kind of holding on to their money, kind of waiting to see what happens.
Hmm. I mean, like fundamentally, we all know the issues with the current financial paradigm that make decentralizing finance important. Um, so when you talk about the fact that you're still building this space and you're actively participating in this space and you still believe in DeFi, how do you explain to people who might not understand it, who might be really cautious and who might feel like the bottom has fallen out?
Hmm. Um, yeah, sure. That's certainly a great question. I mean, certainly, I think DeFi in its current form um, is not for everybody. I think people need to understand that it is high risk, right? You are taking on the risk, right? It's not like a traditional system where there are protections in place and there are things in place to like mitigate your risk, and you have insurances and stuff like that, right?
Hmm.
You are basically at the wheel and in control, and so like people need to understand that and be aware of it, right? this isn't like free money falling from like the money tree, right?
Be nice if it was.
And so I think there's an element of education that's kind of missing that we need to add there. But yeah, I think certainly DeFi is going to be like be huge in the future. I think there are a lot of us in like for example modern Western countries who kind of take for granted that we can just like walk out the door and go down to the store and pick up a loaf of bread and pay for it with our credit card, and the bank processes the transaction, and it's like no big deal. There are places in the world where people literally have to worry about whether or not they're going to be able to use their bank account tomorrow, right? And DeFi is a solution to this. So we just kind of have to keep that in mind. But yeah, definitely, I think people need educated on it to understand the risks involved before they go and dump their life savings into it.
I'm laughing because I literally 2 days ago I was at the airport in London trying to get back to Canada, and I went to pay for my luggage to get my bag onto the plane, and I guess somebody had been taking money on my visa, and they wouldn't accept it. It didn't go through on the visa, and they said we don't accept cash, and I basically I had to walk around the lineup of other passengers, like basically begging for somebody to use their visa and take cash from me to get my bag on the plane. And it definitely made me think about this stuff in a little bit of a different way, where that level of control is actually a bit scary.
Yeah, for sure.
So as far as like moving from that paradigm into a new one where DeFi can play a larger role, obviously, that level of risk and people who know what they're doing being involved in the space. Obviously, we're going to have to move beyond that at some point. What do you think people in the blockchain and DeFi space need to do to help move us towards a future where this model can play a bigger part in our financial lives?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think educating people is one, for sure. Um, I also think we need to come up with more sustainable um, incentivation methods. Constantly uh, getting people to come in by offering them like triple and quadruple digit APR percentages. Like that's not like it's not sustainable, obviously,
No.
right?
Yeah.
And that just brings in people in droves who are just seeking to extract as much money from the system as possible before they go on to the next thing and extract money from that, right?
Mm.
We really need to like build a system that can sustain value and stuff, and 900% APR is not sustainable for years on end, right? It's not even sustainable for 1 year on end. So we we definitely need to come up with that. I think probably stable coins are going to be a big part of that. Definitely increasing their use, and stuff like that. Probably I think tying stuff to real world assets,
Mm.
because I think right now a lot of people are like they don't really get it, because it's magic money to them, but
Yeah.
once we start tying things to real world assets, those are real use cases, and people will start to understand that better, and start to see the value in that, and I think we can see some pretty good adoption from that.
For sure. In your opinion, is DeFi still an important use case for blockchain technology? Like, what's the potential in this space, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's got great potential. I think it still is an important use case. Um, it still is one of the biggest use cases, and I think it will be, um, for a long time, especially for like the reason you just mentioned, like you were at the airport and you had the money to pay for something, but like you couldn't you couldn't pay for it because the systems in place wouldn't like let you, like that kind
Mm,
of sovereignty that like I have the money to do this, just like let me do it. Like,
yeah.
even for example, like um people that want to collateralize their own assets, like for outside of like the credit system, like for example, you want to put a down payment on a house or go buy a car, and you've got the money to do it, but like a lot of people don't have the credit, and the current system today is like, no, sorry, you can't do that. But
Mm,
with DeFi, if it were in a place, you'd be like, you know what, I've got the money, I'm going to collateralize and take out a loan off of my own assets and go get that thing that I want or that I need, and do it on my own, and set my own terms, because it's my money, right?
yeah. Why shouldn't you be able to do that, right? Um, so obviously, at a certain point, you decided to get involved in the Tezos ecosystem, and you've decided to build Crunchy here. And I'm curious. Obviously, we're a Tezos focused podcast, and we always like to find out like what made this chain and this ecosystem appealing to somebody like you, and what makes it appealing as a place to build a project like Crunchy.
Um, yeah. So what I liked about Tezos, uh, is that it's designed to not fork, first of all. So that's important for assets. Although, you know, everybody likes, like when Bitcoin forks, they're like, hey, I've got all this new like magic money, right? Um, but it is important for assets to not fork. Um, I like the way the protocol is self-amending, right? Now we're at a pace that like every, what is it, 2.5, 3 every 2.5, 3 months, something like that. The protocol upgrades itself through like on-chain governance, right? Like as an example, Ethereum upgrades what, once every 4 or 5 years, right? That's in a space that moves super fast. That's extremely slow.
Mm,
Um, so I like that Tezos can keep up with that pace. Like just as an example, um, when things are hot and there's a lot of hype, everybody complains about the price of gas in certain ecosystems, right? Uh, if that were to happen in Tezos, that could easily be fixed in a protocol amendment, and in fact, it has been. There's been 2 or 3 times where they have slashed gas and
mm,
storage costs quite a bit in protocol amendments, right? And even in the next protocol amendment coming up, they're slashing block time from 30 seconds to 15 seconds. Um, so I mean, it's stuff like that. It's just like every protocol release, everything just gets a little better, a little better, a little better. So like, if you've been here, I've been here for 2 years. Some people have been here even longer than me in Tezos. You can see like, yeah, it doesn't take long. Like if you look at the Athens release to where we are now, it's a world of difference. It's pretty amazing to see like
and
how far.
in not too long of a period of time either.
Yeah, and not too far and not too long of a period of time. Just how far the chain has evolved. Yeah.
Mm. So given that, what do you think Tezos's role can be in the larger DeFi ecosystem of the future as you envision it?
Um, Sorry, can you repeat that?
So given what you're describing about the protocol upgrades and the fact that Tezos can sort of stay ahead of the curve in terms of the needs of the ecosystem and the capabilities of the chain, um, when we're talking about DeFi becoming an important part of people's financial lives, what I'm wondering is what part can a chain like Tezos play in that sort of larger DeFi ecosystem as it becomes what you envision it to be?
Mhm. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of paths that it can take. I think the upcoming L2 enshrined rollups could potentially play like a huge role, because that gets us to Visa level throughput and beyond, like even more than that, um, and will enable things that you can do on like the L1 today, but because of the block time, it's not really um, great user experience to do. Things like perpetual markets or like forex markets and stuff like that, or even like doing things at like point of sale. Like you really need to be able to scale up and have like high throughput before we start talking about like things like that.
Mm.
And so they're talking. I don't know. They said numbers like what, 1 million per second or something
1 million
throughput.
TPS, yeah.
1 million TPS, yeah. And so when you start talking numbers like that, I mean, pretty much anything starts to become possible in terms of like user experience and like what you can roll out. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for the future.
Right on. We do have an audience question from our good friend Kryptonio, says he would love to hear your thoughts on adaptive inflation.
Um, I've I've kind of read the post. I'm not super familiar with it. I understand the concept. Um, yeah, I don't really have too many thoughts on it. I don't think that it's good or bad, but I don't think that I think a lot of people that are wanting to push for it think that it's somehow going to like fix the price of Tezos, and I don't think that that's the case, right? I don't think the price of Tezos isn't where it is because of the inflation of Tezos. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay.
You can look at other coins that also have inflation, and they have higher inflation than Tezos does, and their price does better than Tezos. I think that the market is just in a state where people are looking for whatever they can point at or reach at to explain why things are the way they are, and looking to do what they can to try to resolve that. But I think it's an interesting idea, but I don't think it's a solution to fix the price.
All right. So back to what we were talking about before, bringing DeFi into people's financial lives and helping it become what people like you envision. What barriers do you think we like in the blockchain ecosystem in general, but in Tezos more specifically? What barriers do we need to overcome to make that a reality?
Um, yeah, sure. So, I mean, in blockchain in general, like when you're talking about reaching the masses, like private key management is like obviously like the first huge barrier that we all still kind of figure out how to overcome to like help everybody get there. Um, you know, beyond that, kind of more specifically in Tezos, kind of a big barrier right now in DeFi is just like liquidity. Like, how do we get enough liquidity in the system to kind of get it to like function the way that it needs to? Because there has to be a certain amount of liquidity in the system in order for P2P loans to be a viable thing that works. There has to be
Mm,
enough liquidity in the system in order for like decentralized swapping for like dexes to work, like without people incurring like high amounts of like slippage, right? Even like stable swaps, if they don't have enough liquidity, you still get um, a pretty decent amount of slippage for what should be like a one-to-one trade, right? So I think
it,
like Tezos specifically, I think liquidity is the biggest thing that we need to work on overcoming.
it's certainly a concern that I hear a lot when I speak to people building in DeFi on Tezos. That seems to be a big presenting concern, right?
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I have another audience queue here from. I do not know how to pronounce this. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to ask the question. If we were to get that high throughput, would we need to onboard more bakers? Would there be a potential risk for the network? I don't know if those are necessarily linked. That's the question.
Yeah, I don't think that those are necessarily linked. Um, yeah, I don't think that we would need to get more bakers. Obviously, more bakers means more decentralized, and I think getting more bakers is always a goal, but I think it's a separate thing. Yeah.
Okay. Um, what is next for Crunchy? Do you have any other exciting rollouts or announcements in the works?
Um, yeah, so obviously we're working on expanding the token tracker. We're also working as part of the token tracker on a DEX indexer to index all the historical data for DEXs and trades that happen. So as part of that, our aggregate swap, our DEX aggregate, will also expand as part of that. And then also we have slice.art, uh, which is a Crunchy product that we're spinning it off as its own brand, which is some people might know it as the Pie Slicer, which are fractional NFTs. Um, those that'll be coming pretty shortly. And then we're also working on getting the DAO, finally the DAO fully up and running, along with DAO staking um, for DAO staking for fees, and then voting for proposals and stuff, and working on transitioning and kind of like handing um, a large part of the project over to the DAO.
Very cool. We're almost at the end here, but before we close off, first off, I need to announce the winner of the Tezos branded Nano Ledger we're giving away today. Today's winner is DGen. Congratulations, DGen. To claim your prize, just email us at social@tezoscommons.org. We'll request a screenshot for verification that you're the account owner, and then we'll get your shiny new Nano Ledger over to you just as quick as we can. For those who missed out today, we remind you that there are awesome giveaways to be found frequently here on the TezTalks live stream, so keep tuning in. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our social media contacts can be found at tezoscommons.org/TezTalks. And we'd love to hear from you. Josh, thanks so much for joining us today. It's always awesome to speak to the folks building cool projects like Crunchy here in the Tezos ecosystem and keeping Tezos at the forefront of the Web3 revolution. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before we sign off here?
Nope, it's been a great talk. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for being here. We'll probably check in again as the rollout continues. To everyone out there in Tezos land, thanks for joining us on the TezTalks live stream. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons, and our awesome guest has been Josh Dechant, founder of Crunchy. Now let's go check this cool new platform out.